Welcome back, friends. It's the last weekend of April 2022. I'm back in the mountains for our annual Fire Lookout refresher training. I arrived a few days early for some rest and relaxation. I'm camping at Buckeye Flat Campground in Sequoia National Park tonight, and then disperse camping tomorrow to be closer to training the next morning. Buckeye Flat Campground sits along Paradise Creek, which is close to where the Paradise Fire started last year. I'll talk more about that later. But now, it's time to build a fire and make pulled pork sandwiches for dinner. My favorite thing to do when camping at Buckeye Flat is to stroll along Paradise Creek early in the morning before breakfast. I like to slow down and sit. Nature moves at its own deliberate pace. Imagine water slowly wearing down rocks as it flows down a creek. Think of tree trunks taking decades to make their way towards the sky. Just because we can't see instant progress doesn't mean it isn't occurring. Moving slowly and intentionally can still have a lot of power. I consider it a privilege to witness the intensity of the water crashing over the rocks while absorbing the tranquility of gold flakes shimmering in the shallow pools. After breakfast, I packed up camp, which is a lot easier and faster with the CVT Mount Hood tent. I'm so happy the Epic Family Road Trip sold me one of theirs. It's an absolute game changer. Look closely as I make my way out of camp, and you will see the scorched earth and burned trees where the Paradise Fire has left its mark. There's a side road just before you get to the Buckeye Flat Campground. I decided to explore it for the first time on my way out of camp. It's only 1.3 miles and leads to the Middle Fork trailhead. Plus, it gives me a reason to get the tires dirty. I'm hiking the Middle Fork Trail today. Someone stopped by my camp last night asking me for directions. I haven't done this hike before, so I wasn't real familiar with it. I decided I'd give it a try. I'm not gonna do the whole thing. It goes into the backcountry. I'm only gonna go to the first couple of creek crossings and then find another campsite for tonight. I'm not going to do the rest of this hike today. It's almost noon. Right after that creek crossing starts an uphill climb, and I'm not dressed for it. I don't want to climb uphill wearing black jeans. I have enough information. Maybe I'll come back next weekend and get an earlier start. On September 9th, 2021, a significant lightning storm moved through the southern Sierra Nevada. On September 10th, two fires, the Colony Fire and Paradise Fire, were identified. These two fires later merged and became the KNP Complex. The majority of the KNP Complex acreage burned in Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. As soon as the fires were discovered, Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks immediately took full suppression action, meaning the goal was to totally extinguish both fires. Firefighting resources throughout the state were stretched thin, so most of the firefighting was up to local agencies. When the fires were discovered on September 10th, it was immediately evident that putting them out would be difficult due to the extremely steep terrain, lack of trail or road access, and the risk to firefighters posed by a high density of standing, dead trees. Poor visibility due to extremely smoky conditions sometimes prevented aircraft from flying. In addition, the prolonged drought in California had killed thousands of trees in the parks, making them receptive to fire. The drought also meant that live plants and trees had a low percentage of moisture and were likely to ignite and carry the fire. Initial attack on the fires relied heavily on aircraft, dropping retardant and water on the fire. As the fires grew, ground crews utilized indirect firefighting tactics. This meant that they worked at a distance from the fire's edge and in terrain where it was possible to operate with an acceptable margin of safety and a higher probability of success. There were some opportunities for a direct attack as the fire moved into more accessible terrain and where prescribed fires had decreased the amount of overgrowth. This allowed firefighters to work right along the edge of the fire and attempt to prevent any further growth. This is the view from Beetle Rock in the Giant Forest, looking towards Colony Peak and where the Colony fire was ignited by lightning. The Paradise and Colony fires would have been detected by our fire lookouts, but happened overnight when the towers weren't in service. Fire has influenced every sequoia in the giant forest of Sequoia National Park. Over thousands of years, lightning fires have burned here as often as every 3 to 9 years. For a century, fire was completely suppressed here. No sequoia seedlings grew in the giant forest, and the grove was choked with forest debris. This debris can fuel unnaturally hot, destructive fires. Such fires threaten even the big trees. Since the 1960s, the National Park Service has carefully planned fires to clear away these heavy fuels. Combined with natural fires, this will help return giant forest to health. Some sequoia groves were seared by the high-intensity fire that sent flames hundreds of feet, burning the canopies of the towering trees. Giant sequoias can withstand natural, low-intensity fires, but not fires that reach their canopies. I'm saddened by the unnecessary loss of so many giant sequoias. The trees need low-intensity fire to reproduce. Tons of leaves, branches, and tree trunks pile up on the forest floor each year. This deep carpet means certain death for tiny sequoia seeds. The soil is so dry and impenetrable, they can't get started. Fire thins out the forest of competitors, clearing away shade, and the heat causes the seedlings to open. Fire officials say recent blazes have been much more intense because decades of fire suppression left more undergrowth than normal, and it's bone dry from drought. The fire burned very close to our fire tower on Park Ridge. It was saved because the fire lost momentum as it entered areas where prescribed fires limit the amount of debris on the forest floor. I'm in search of a place to disperse camp along the route to Delilah Lookout. I checked with the Forest Service, and they said the tree blocking my way last week has been removed. Since I moved the max tracks to this rear rack, it's put an additional 30 pounds of weight on the back end. That makes it harder to push up. Once I get it past the breaking point, the struts that are rated for 500 pounds can hold it up. It's just a matter of getting it to that point. Another option would be to take the max tracks off, which, if I would have needed to level out the Jeep, I would have used those. But as it turns out, I found a pretty level spot. CVT gave me this pole. I wedge it between the floor and the ceiling, and it keeps the top from collapsing. Just so I don't get any comments, yes, I can lift 30 pounds. It's just that the struts are rated for 500 pounds, so they already have a lot of tension on them to begin with. So even before the max tracks got moved, it still took a little bit of effort to get the tent raised past its breaking point. tree with no leaves is still a tree. A rose bush out of bloom is still a rose bush. And a bird that can't fly is still a bird. When you don't feel like yourself, when you're going through times of change and loss, remember, there's nothing incomplete or inadequate about your being. Nothing can separate you from your true nature.
Eagle Peak, Patrol 51.
Patrol 51, Eagle Peak.
I'm going to need you to relay a message to Ash Mountain Fire. Let me know when you're ready to copy. It's a long transmission.
I'm ready. Go ahead.
I'm on scene of a disabled vehicle at the Park Y. The vehicle is a Ford F-250, license plate number Adam 54321 break. The driver has AAA. Their AAA number is 1234567.
I made that part easy.
Break. It looks to be a possible transmission problem.
Ash Mountain Fire, Eagle Peak.
You guys get to be Eagle Peak.
Ash Mountain Fire.
You get to be BM. Black map.
Patrol 51 would like for me to relay information on a disabled vehicle. Are you ready to copy?
Affirmative, go ahead.
The disabled vehicle is at the Park Y. It's a Ford F-250, license number Adam 54321. And I have AAA information when you're ready.
Go ahead, Eagle Peak.
AAA number is 1234567, and it appears to be a transmission problem.
Copy that. Do you know if there's lane blockage?
Negative.
Eagle Peak, Ash Mountain Fire. I've contacted AAA out of Orange Cove. They have an ETA of 90 minutes.
Eagle Peak copies. Patrol 51, Eagle Peak.
Patrol 51.
Ash Mountain Fire states AAA has a 90-minute ETA out of Orange Cove.
All right, copy that. Thanks again for relaying.
You're welcome, Eagle Peak.
Excellent. That was textbook perfect.
With training complete, I'm ready to stand watch over the forest that has become my second home. Although there is a feeling of helplessness after seeing my beloved forest nuked by recent fires, there is comfort in knowing lessons have been learned, and there's a superb group of volunteers to help prevent devastating fires in the future.